Friday is my last day. My sister Tasha slid a sheet of paper across Mom's dining table like she was announcing a promotion. I stared at the resignation letter, then at her. You got another job. Tasha actually laughed. Why would I get another job? I'm quitting. She leaned back and folded her arms. You'll support me and the kids. I waited for Mom to react. Denise calmly cut another piece of chicken. That was when I realized this wasn't some ridiculous idea Tasha had invented over dinner. They had already discussed it. The only person who hadn't been included in the plan was the person expected to pay for it. When exactly did I agree to this? Mom finally looked up. Wilo, don't start. Tasha explained everything as if my approval were a technicality. I was 32, single, childless, and doing well as a payroll specialist. Therefore, according to her, I could cover her rent, groceries, utilities, and the children's school expenses while she figured out what came next. You make enough, she said. What are you spending it on anyway? My life. Mom put down her fork. Your sister has 2 children. Sometimes family means making sacrifices. I almost laughed at the word sacrifices. For years, every family emergency had somehow ended with my bank account. Mom needed help with a bill. I paid it. Tasha was short before payday. I transferred money. Something came up with the kids. Aunt Wilo handled it. And whenever I hesitated, Mom knew exactly what to do. First came the guilt. Then the silent treatment. Then relatives mysteriously started calling me after hearing some version of the story where I was selfish and Denise and Tasha were struggling. But this wasn't an emergency. Tasha was voluntarily walking away from a stable job and handing me the consequences. No. Tasha's smile disappeared. Mom blinked. Excuse me. I said no. Tasha shook her head. You'll change your mind. I stood, picked up my purse, and left. But I didn't change my mind. The next morning, I opened an email I had been ignoring for weeks, an internal transfer offer from my employer. The position was nearly 900 miles away. I accepted it. Within 2 weeks, my apartment was packed and I was driving toward another state. Tasha called the move dramatic. You know bank transfers work across state lines, right? She joked. I didn't answer. For the first time in years, there were hundreds of miles between me and the people who believed access to me meant access to my paycheck. Exactly 1 month later, my phone buzzed. Mom. I opened her message. Come back or we'll disown you. I read it twice. Then I looked at my banking app. And one question entered my mind. What would happen if the daughter they were threatening to remove from the family removed her money first? I didn't reply to Mom's threat. Instead, I opened my laptop. If my family was willing to disown me over money, I wanted to know exactly how much money we were talking about. I pulled up my banking history and started going backward. The first recurring payment I noticed was Mom's phone plan. Then part of her mortgage. Then her car insurance. I kept scrolling. There were smaller automatic payments I had barely thought about when I agreed to them. Household expenses Denise had once described as temporary. Then I found the payments for Tasha's children's after-school program. Below those were transfers labeled things like asterisk groceries asterisk, school stuff, and emergency. I sat back from the screen. No single payment looked enormous. That was the trick. They had accumulated gradually until helping my family had become another category in my monthly budget. My phone rang. Tasha. I almost ignored it, but answered. Her voice was unusually soft. Wilo, the kids keep asking why Aunt Wilo doesn't care about them anymore. My hand tightened around the phone. Don't do that, Tasha. Do what? Use your children, because I won't finance your decision to quit your job. She sighed. Nobody said finance my life. I just need you to keep sending what you normally send, plus enough to cover the difference. How much? She answered immediately. The number was exact. Not an estimate. Not around this much. Exact. I stared at my laptop. How did you calculate that? Silence. Then Tasha said, I just know my expenses. But some of that number includes Mom's bills. Another pause. I have to go. She hung up. That night, an email from Denise landed in my inbox. It looked like part of a forwarded family email chain. Attached beneath it was a spreadsheet. Monthly family budget. I opened it. Mortgage. Phone. Insurance. Children's expenses. Groceries. Beside payment after payment was one name. Wilo. My family hadn't listed my contributions as occasional help. They had budgeted my salary as if it belonged to them. I opened my banking app. Phone plan. Cancelled. Mortgage contribution. Cancelled. Insurance payment. Cancelled. After-school payment. Cancelled. 3 days later, the consequences started landing. Mom called first. Why is my phone bill overdue? Before I could answer, another message appeared from Tasha. The after-school program says payment didn't go through. Fix it. Not can you help? Not what happened. Fix it. I replied with 4 words. You'll need to pay it. By that evening, Denise had discovered I'd removed myself from several shared services too. The next morning she texted me a link. Family video call. Tonight, be there. When I joined, Mom and Tasha weren't alone. My aunt was there. So were 2 cousins. I understood immediately. This wasn't a conversation. It was an intervention. Mom began before I could even say hello. Everyone needs to understand what Wilo has done. She moved away, and now that she's successful, she's decided to abandon her family. My aunt looked uncomfortable. One cousin glanced away from the camera. Tasha jumped in. I already gave notice at work because Wilo has always helped us. Now suddenly, she wants to punish my children. There it was again. The children. I didn't argue. I didn't explain how many years I had helped. Instead, I looked directly at Tasha. Show them. Her forehead tightened. Show them what? The message. What message? The text, email, anything where I agreed to replace your salary after you quit. Nobody spoke. Tasha shifted in her chair. You knew I needed help. That wasn't my question. Mom interrupted. Wilo, stop interrogating your sister. But one of my cousins leaned toward the screen. No, actually, did Wilo agree to this? Tasha's face hardened. I opened the spreadsheet Denise had accidentally sent me. Since we're discussing family finances publicly, everyone should see the family budget. I shared my screen. The mood changed instantly. My aunt started reading. Denise, Wilo pays part of your mortgage. Mom's expression tightened. And your car insurance, my cousin added. I scrolled farther. There were my contributions, beside expense after expense. Then my other cousin noticed something I hadn't fully understood before. Wait. He pointed toward Tasha's section. Her salary is listed here. Tasha froze. He continued. But after she quits, none of her money is allocated toward these household expenses. Wilo's payments increase instead. Tasha reached toward her computer. Her screen disappeared. Tasha has left the meeting. Seconds later, Mom left too. My phone rang immediately. Denise. I answered. What were you thinking? She snapped. Showing private family information like that. You invited the family. That doesn't give you the right to embarrass your sister. So the spreadsheet is accurate. Silence. That silence answered more than denial ever could. You knew, I said. Mom exhaled sharply. Your sister has plans. What plans? She's trying to build something for herself. With my money. That's not what I said. It's exactly what the spreadsheet says. Mom's voice rose. You've always helped. Why are you suddenly acting like everything is some conspiracy against you? Because Tasha quit her job expecting me to replace her income, and you helped her plan it. Denise went quiet. Then, before hanging up, she said the sentence that changed everything. Your sister was supposed to use her money for something more important. Something more important. Mom's words stayed with me after she hung up. Then I remembered something Tasha had told me months earlier. She wanted to start an online home decor business. At the time, she'd complained that inventory, packaging, advertising, and shipping would require money she didn't have. I reopened the spreadsheet. This time, I stopped looking at what they expected me to pay and focused on what Tasha wasn't paying. Her living expenses shifted toward me after her planned resignation. Her own money barely appeared anywhere. I called her. What happened to the home decor business? There was a long pause. What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. Mom said you needed your money for something more important. Tasha became defensive. You're making assumptions. So tell me I'm wrong. Silence. How much do you have saved? Wilo. How much? Another pause. Almost 28,000. I stood from my desk. You have $28,000. It's business capital. And you were quitting your job while expecting me to pay your bills. I wasn't expecting you to pay everything. You gave me an exact monthly number. Tasha exhaled sharply. I wanted to invest properly. If I spend my savings on rent and groceries, I'll never get the business started. So I was supposed to spend my money on your rent and groceries instead. Mom thought it made sense. There it was. Confirmation. This hadn't been Tasha making a reckless announcement and Denise blindly defending her. They had discussed it. They had calculated it. And because I had always rescued everyone before, they assumed eventually I would surrender again. Even Mom's threat finally made sense. Come back or we'll disown you. It hadn't been about missing me. It had been leverage. I opened my banking dashboard while Tasha was still talking. Listen carefully, I said. There will be no mortgage contribution, no phone plan, no routine transfers, and I am not paying your household expenses. Wilo, my kids. If there is a genuine emergency involving the children, call me directly, but I will not finance their mother choosing unemployment. Tasha went silent. Then she hung up. The following morning, I learned her resignation had not taken effect yet. She still had a short window to withdraw it. Without my money, quitting meant using that $28,000 for actual living expenses instead of preserving it for her business. Mom couldn't replace what I had been contributing either. For the first time, Tasha's decision belonged entirely to Tasha. That afternoon, I was processing payroll reports when my phone started vibrating across my desk. Tasha. I declined it. It rang again. Then again. 3 missed calls became 6. Finally, a message appeared. I stared at Tasha's message for several seconds. Asterisk HR closes in 40 minutes. Then I answered. What do you need? Her voice came fast. I need to know if you're serious. About what? Stopping everything. Yes. Silence. Then Tasha finally stopped pretending. Mom and I worked out the numbers months ago. I said nothing. She continued. They had looked at how much I regularly contributed to Mom's mortgage, her insurance, the children's expenses, the random transfers whenever Tasha claimed she was short. Because those payments had become routine, they assumed they were permanent. Tasha had nearly $28,000 saved. Her plan was to quit the insurance company and use most of that money for inventory, packaging, advertising, and launching her home decor business. My money would cover the gap. You were basically already paying those things, she said. Basically. You know what I mean. No, Tasha, I want to hear you say it. She hesitated. We thought you could cover more while I got the business running. There it was. Not desperation. Not an emergency. A financial plan built around money I had never agreed to give. And Mom knew. Yes. Before that dinner. Yes. I closed my eyes. Even the dinner had been staged backward. They hadn't invited me over to ask whether I would help. They had already decided that I would. What about Mom telling me to come back or she'd disown me? Tasha lowered her voice. We thought if you understood how serious everyone was, you'd stop being stubborn. I almost laughed. So you threatened to remove me from the family because I wouldn't finance your business. That's not fair. No, what you did wasn't fair. Her tone changed immediately. Okay, fine, I should have asked, but just restart the payments temporarily. Give me 6 months. Once the business becomes profitable, I'll take everything back over. No. 3 months. No. Wilo, we're sisters. And being my sister doesn't give you ownership over my paycheck. A second voice suddenly came through the call. Mom. Apparently, Tasha had put me on speaker. Family takes care of family, Denise said. I recognized that tone. It was the same one that used to make me reach for my banking app before I had even decided whether I wanted to help. This time, I didn't move. Then, why does your version of family always require me to sacrifice, while you two decide what I'm sacrificing? Neither answered. Mom finally said, after everything I've done for you, I helped because I loved you. You turned that help into an obligation. Tasha interrupted. Can we stop arguing? I have to call HR. Then call them. You're really going to make me do this? No, Tasha, that's the point. I'm not making you do anything anymore. The line went quiet. Then she hung up. Tasha called HR before the deadline and withdrew her resignation. She later admitted that explaining the reversal was embarrassing, but she kept her job. The home decor business didn't disappear. She simply had to build it the way she should have planned to from the beginning, slowly, while earning her own income. Mom's situation changed too. Without my automatic contributions, Denise went through her expenses and started cutting things she could no longer justify. Subscriptions disappeared. Household spending dropped. And for the first time in years, she paid the full cost of maintaining her own home. The relatives from that video call stopped contacting me about being selfish. They had seen the spreadsheet. There wasn't much left to explain. Meanwhile, every paycheck I received in my new state looked different. Money that once disappeared into someone else's mortgage, insurance, phone bill, or emergency stayed in my account. I increased my retirement contributions. I built my emergency fund. Within months, I had saved more consistently than I had in years. But the biggest change wasn't the number in my account. It was what happened when my phone rang. I stopped assuming every family call was a bill waiting to happen. I stayed in my new state. I still spoke to Mom. I still loved Tasha's children and remained part of their lives. But the rules were different. If there was a genuine emergency involving the kids, Tasha could tell me what happened, and I could decide whether I wanted to help. No automatic transfers. No manufactured guilt. No budgeting my salary without my permission. Months later, Mom called me. We talked for several minutes before she casually mentioned that one of her household expenses was a little difficult this month. In the past, that sentence would have been enough. I would have asked how much. Instead, I said, I hope you find a solution. There was a pause. Then Mom changed the subject. That was when I knew the relationship had truly changed. Tasha kept her job, and gradually worked on her business with her own savings. Mom never disowned me. Nobody did. Once my money disappeared, the threat disappeared with it. They had spent years teaching me that being a good daughter meant always saying yes. Moving away taught me something better. I could love my family without financing every decision they made. They threatened to remove Wilo Smith from the family until she removed her paycheck first, and they finally learned the difference between loving someone and living off them.